Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back. As I said in my previous video, I'm doing some back-to-back videos because I'm going to be out of town and I wanted to film a few so that I don't miss a day of uploading for you guys. So I shared a very short video with you previous to this one. It had the 5 steps in, and I've already forgotten, finding the lessons in your wheel and contract. And in these next several sections, we're going to be reading stories as sharing examples with us, because we do need, I think, as many examples as we can get of how other people found their contracts and put together their archetypal wheels. So I have 3 different stories, 3 or 4, and they're all kind of long. So I'm going to break them up because it's just too much to read at once. But we're going to start out with Maeve's archetypal wheel. So a woman named Maeve, okay? Maeve is a single mom in her mid-40s, an astronomer who is also a student of astrology. After choosing the archetypes that make up her personal support group of 12, she cast her chart of origin as shown in figure 7. And then there's a chart right here that the author is sharing with us. Maeve wanted to apply the guidance in her wheel to the reasons she had chosen her career. So she asked herself, what experiences and contracts led me to choose my current profession? Maeve worked the archetypes and houses with the skill of her storyteller archetype, which she had chosen because myth and fable formed the link between her life as a scientist and her study of the consciousness of the planets. To make her astrological insights more accessible to her scientific colleagues, Maeve often presented them in story form. And if you're interested, I don't know, I'll show you her wheel here. It's just an example. So again, we have all the numbers, okay, from 1 to 12. We have all of the astrological signs going around. We have all of the words in here that connect to each house, what each house represents. And then here are her archetypes that she chose and where she chose to place them. So she's chosen servant, wait, I just went out of order. Fool, prostitute, saboteur, servant, pilgrim, liberator, weaver, storyteller, child, wizard, victim, the goddess, Sophia, and I think that's it. I already said fool. That was number 1 was fool. Okay. Maeve, oh wait, I already said that. She chose the storyteller as the first archetype to examine because of its prominent role in her sense of who she is. I live in a mythic place, she said. I've always wanted to live an extraordinary life, and one of my earliest and fondest memories is of telling my parents that one day I would learn how to fly. This desire woke up inside of me when I was around 9 years old, and I dreamed of traveling into space. So when my storyteller archetype landed in my 8th house, other people's resources, that made immediate sense to me. I have always utilized others' research in science. I also believe that this archetype is responsible for my having an open mind. I always invite people to tell me if anything incredible ever happened to them, always looking for extraordinary life stories. During the last year of grade school, Maeve's class went on a field trip to a planetarium, and that's when she realized that becoming an astronomer was what she had to do with her life. When she was selecting her family of archetypes, she chose the wizard because that is the part of me that relates to my occupation. I feel like a wizard when I study the skies. Because she was seeking insight into her choice of career, she decided to explore that archetype next. Noting that her wizard had landed in her 10th house, which is our highest potential, she saw something significant about the interplay between her choice of career and her inner nature. This union validated what I believe to be my profession, she said, which is to investigate the psyche of the planets within the world of the scientist. Planets are living beings, not just inert balls circling the sun. They communicate their essence into our psyches and speak to our spirits. Because I believe this so deeply, I became a student of astrology. Combining these 2 sciences is like finding the mystic key to the universe. Maeve also acknowledged that she had encountered the shadow side of her wizard, that part of her that sometimes hopes that the research of a hardcore scientist will fail, which is equivalent to proving that hard science does not have all the answers. I am not fond of admitting this, but I am also not ashamed of it. It is how I feel, and the greater shame would be to deny it. Yeah. Her statement illustrates a crucial aspect of learning to interpret your contract through the placement of your archetypes. Your willingness to confront those aspects of your character that are most hidden and with which you are least comfortable will ultimately help you gain a more complete picture of the dynamics of your contract. The saboteur in her third house represented Maeve's passion to communicate since she was young, but it also represented a warning. Telling people that I believe that the entire universe is a communicating entity could derail my career and undermine my reputation as a professional. I confronted that fear when I was in school, and deep in my being, I know that I will always have to risk how the outside world would respond to me. That led me to develop self-esteem early. It also helped me to see how other people sabotage their imaginations because they simply cannot consider that life might be more than what they see before their eyes. Maeve's, Maeve's prostitute was in her second house, or life values. When first starting out as an astronomer, before she developed her interest in astrology, her goal was to be successful in her specialization, the study of asteroids. But once she started to study astrology, she was infused with a passion that pure academics never provided. Yet she found her colleagues predictably critical. She realized that she would have to manage her enthusiasm for what she calls the field of alternative astronomy, or she risks her financial security. My values were finally on the line, she said. Do I sell out or do I continue to follow my spirit's understanding of the universe? Maeve chose consciously to balance how much of her ideas she could convey to the conservative world of traditional science. Her prostitute gave Maeve a new perspective on her first house, where her ego self is ruled by the fool. She saw the fool as representing someone who is protected in her search for the truth, because a fool can appear to be harmless. It may be the strongest power I have, she said, and knowing that my fool serves me, I work with it. Because I know that to be true, I consciously tend to have a mainstream wardrobe, but that's one of my fool's hiding places. People don't expect someone who looks like me to bring up the subject of planetary psychic intelligence. Maeve acknowledged that the open-minded people she meets who do accept her unconventional occupations are usually not among those in power, to whom she needs to appear harmless. She admits, I adore the thought that I am fooling them. The servant in Maeve's fourth house, which rules the home, baffled her initially, because like so many others, she associated that archetype with serving other people. As a mother and a professional, she felt the need to inspire in her daughter a similar sense of how important it is to become self-sufficient, which at first seems just the opposite of being a servant. Maeve originally selected the servant archetype because that is how she imagined her relationship to God. But home represents not only the house where I live, but also the inner dwelling where my soul resides. And from that perspective, I am a servant to my soul and responsible for the care of its home. The pilgrim in the fifth house, which is creativity and good fortune, felt like a perfect match for Maeve because the pilgrim represents seeking new ground, which is where most of her creative energies go. And she has always felt lucky in such endeavors, whether professional or personal. Some of my deepest fears also reside in this combination of forces, she added. The fear that my creativity may run dry or that my work will add up to nothing, for instance. I also fear that someday I will look back on how I have invested my creative energies and regret that I did not follow more conventional studies. Sometimes I have felt like a semi-professional because I am now more intrigued with astrology than astronomy, which I consider the backup science. I'm just going to take a look and see. Okay. Now I lost my place here. Maeve also fears that her luck will run out. I have been fortunate in this life. I love what I do. I have a great daughter, wonderful friends, and a rich relationship with my spirit. How lucky can you get? But all that can change, and I think about that truth a lot. I wonder what would be like if the pilgrim finally ran out of luck. About 4 years ago, Maeve was diagnosed with chronic depression. She believed it stemmed from her obsession with perfection and a drive that did not allow her to take care of herself as well as she should. Her doctor suggested medication, but Maeve felt that if she used antidepressants, she would not recover. I made a commitment to heal myself, she said, or as I now think of it, to liberate myself from this situation. I won't even refer to it as an illness. It's merely a situation I needed to change. With the liberator in her house of occupation and health, Maeve could see how she had approached healing herself. A classic liberator such as Simón Bolívar, Gandhi, or Nelson Mandela has enough faith in his struggle to stay with it under difficult circumstances, even when defeat seems imminent. Like those historical figures, Maeve would not allow herself the luxury of negative, defeatist thoughts. She liberated herself from the conventional medical assessment of chronic depression and made great inroads in freeing herself from the depression itself. Working with the archetypes and houses in this way led Maeve to see overarching patterns as well. She said, I can say that I was born to liberate perceptions about the way people believe the physical world operates and to show them another reality. I know the power that runs through my veins, and I know that I am interested in moving realities, not people. Move a reality, and people have no choice but to go along for the ride. Since depression can often be a spiritual crisis, we look to Maeve's 9th house, which is spirituality, where the child had fallen, for help with explaining her healing. Maeve felt an immediate conflict because she did not relate to the parent-child idea of a relationship with God that characterizes much conventional religion. I do not trust the behavior of God completely the way a child trusts a parent. I am still braced for concealed landmines and for discovering that God has led me on a lifetime wild goose chase. Yet she also recognized that the parent-child image represents dependency, which she feared. I fear God's power over me, she said, and yet I marvel, just like a child, at the wonder of the stars and planets, and what I feel the divine gave me as this part of my work. I struggle with the image of the benevolent parent allowing so many of Earth's children to suffer and endure human cruelty. Maeve's deep spiritual need for divine order in the universe was constantly at odds with her deep spiritual fears and confusions. So this and her striving for perfection could have contributed to her depression. She acknowledged that she did not indeed feel a child's vulnerability in spiritual matters. By facing this shadow aspect of her emotions, she was able to allay some of her fears in much the same way that turning on a nightlight can help diffuse a child's fear of the dark. Maeve interpreted the victim in her 11th house, which is the relationship to the world, as representative of her aspiration to help people avoid becoming victims of ignorance. It is my hope that the more truth that fills the global unconscious, the easier it will be for people to create better lives for themselves. She also admitted that she faced at least the potential of becoming a victim herself in relation to the world if her unconventional ideas ultimately made it impossible for her to continue with her chosen profession. The victim urges us to act appropriately when we are in danger of being victimized. The goddess Sophia of wisdom. So remember, goddess or god is an archetype, and you can certainly choose a specific god or goddess. In this case, she's chosen Sophia, which means wisdom. Landing in Maeve's house of the unconscious required little clarification or internal stretching, because Maeve saw herself as a kind of Sophia force in the world. The question, what is wisdom, is one that I ask in almost all situations and of life in general. I want to live a life where I learn, give, share, and grow. For as long as she could remember, she held the image in her head of being a powerful woman. I am motivated by Sophia and credit her being as the reason for my own intellectual passions. When Maeve cast her chart, she wanted to examine the conflict she felt between her motivation to be a scientist and her fascination with the apparently unscientific exploration of the consciousness of the planets. Much as she wanted to succeed in the academic world, this split often caused her to act belligerently toward her colleagues, whom she felt were closed-minded and threatened by her unconventional theories. This shadow conflict eventually also invaded her relationship to her children. Interpreting her chart of origin provided her with a more well-rounded view of how her choice of career fit into her sacred contract. If Maeve had stopped here, her life would already have been enriched. But going through her wheel several more times, addressing different aspects of her life and other relationships, provided her with an even richer understanding of her overall contract. As in studying a poem to get at its deeper meaning, each time you read through your wheel, you will see new correspondences and connections that you hadn't been aware of. We'll leave Maeve here, though, and move on to someone who received rather different guidance regarding his career. So the next story we'll read in the next video is Byron's archetypal wheel. Yeah, I think all of the next 2 or 3 stories are about the same length. So I'm just going to break them up. And yeah, we only have 2 more chapters after this though. So I think I've made already, I want to say about 40 videos for this book. I had no idea it was going to be this involved. So if you are following along with me, congratulations and kudos to you, because this is an involved book. Whether you've done anything with it or not is beside the point. The fact that you're here and you're open to it and you're learning someday means you probably will want to cast that wheel for yourself. So we'll stop right there, and in the next video we'll read Byron's archetypal wheel. And I really do enjoy reading these stories because it does help me figure out how I'm going to do this for myself, and maybe it will help you as well. So anyways, until I see you again, please take care of yourself. Please take care of those around you. I love you all very much. And yeah, just take care of yourself until I see you again. Bye-bye.